Welcome to my channel Techify with Adil. So today in this video we will be discussing about Azure Arc, Azure Resource Manager ARM templates. So in the previous video we have started the new session studying about the Azure tools. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe, like and share my videos. You can watch all my videos under Azure playlist if you like to do the certification or if you just want to gain knowledge in Azure. Managing hybrid and multi-cloud environments can rapidly get complicated. So Azure provides a host of tools to provision, configure and monitor Azure resources. What about the on-premises resources in a hybrid configuration or the cloud resources in a multi-cloud configuration? So in utilizing Azure Resource Manager, so ARM in short, Arc lets you extend your Azure compliance and monitoring to your hybrid and multi-cloud configuration. So the utilizing the ARM and Arc will let you make the monitoring and Azure compliance easy when using the hybrid or multi-cloud configurations. Azure Arc simplifies governance and management by delivering a consistent multi-cloud and on-premises management platform. Azure Arc provides a centralized, unified way to manage your entire environment together by projecting your existing non-Azure resources into ARM. Manage multi-cloud and hybrid virtual machines, Kubernetes clusters, and databases as if they are running in Azure. Use familiar Azure services and management capabilities regardless of where they live. Continue using traditional IT ops while introducing DevOps practices to support new cloud and native patterns in your environment. Configure custom locations as an abstraction layer on top of Azure Arc enabled Kubernetes clusters and cluster extensions. What can Azure Arc do outside of Azure? So currently Azure Arc allows you to manage the following resource types hosted outside the Azure, like servers, Kubernetes clusters, Azure data services, SQL server and virtual machines. So virtual machines we can have preview. So this is all about the Arc. So using Arc provides the centralized unified way to manage multi-cloud hybrid virtual machines and also projecting your existing non-Azure resources into ARM. It's very familiar Azure services and management capabilities regardless where they live. So these are the advantages of using the Azure Arc, and it can also support with outside the Azure hosting with managing these resources. So next will be Azure ARM templates, Resource Manager and ARM templates. So Azure Resource Manager is the deployment and management service of Azure. It provides a management layer that enables you to create, update and delete resources in your Azure account. Anytime you do anything with your Azure resources, ARM is involved. When a user sends a request from any of the Azure tools like API or SDK, ARM receives the request. The ARM authenticates and authorizes the request. Then ARM sends the request to the Azure service, which takes the requested action. You see consistent results and capabilities in all different tools because all the requests are handled through the same API. This is one of the important thing you will have to take note what is the importance of using the ARM. So Azure ARM resource benefits. So you can manage your infrastructure through declarative templates rather than scripts. A resource manager template is a JSON file that defines what you want to deploy to Azure. So deploy, manage and monitor all the resources for your solution as a group rather than handling these resources individually. Redeploy your solution throughout the development lifecycle and have confidence your resources are deployed in a consistent state. Define the dependencies between resources so they are deployed in the correct order. Apply access control to all services because RBAC, that is natively integrated into management platform. Apply tags to resources to logically organize all the resources in your subscription. Clarify your organization's billing by weaving cost for a group of resources that share the same tag. So these are the benefits of using Azure Resource Manager. So we'll now see a video on
Azure Resource Manager is at the center of managing resources in Azure. It provides a management layer that enables you to create, update, and delete resources in your Azure account. Every time you send a request to manage resources in Azure, Azure Resource Manager handles that request. Whether you are using the portal, command line, Azure SDKs, or Azure REST APIs, your request goes through Azure Resource Manager. Azure organizes things this way so that you can be sure you'll always get consistent results regardless of which tool you use to create your resources. It also gives each tool the same power and capabilities. Suppose you are an IT engineer and you need to create a virtual machine. Azure Resource Manager authenticates your request and checks whether you are authorized to create the compute, storage, and networking components. If everything validates, Azure Resource Manager forwards your request to the Azure services where they create the actual resources. Azure Resource Manager provides resource groups that let you organize related resources. By allocating them to a resource group, you can more easily manage them, such as moving all related resources to a new subscription or deleting them with one action. When you're ready to automate your Azure deployments, you can use infrastructure as code. ARM templates, BICEP, and Terraform are infrastructure as code options. These tools enable you to reliably deploy your infrastructure to any environment, such as development, staging, or production. Azure Resource Manager also leverages existing Azure role-based access control for subscriptions, resource groups, and resources, so access rules are used, regardless of the client you're using. Azure Resource Manager works in the background to manage and organize resources in an Azure subscription. By understanding these fundamental concepts of Azure Resource Manager, you can efficiently deploy and manage your resources on Azure.
Okay. So next will be infrastructure as code. So infrastructure as code is a concept where you manage your infrastructure as lines of code. At the introductory level, it's things like using Azure Cloud Shell, Azure PowerShell, or Azure CLI to manage and configure your resources. As you get more comfortable in cloud, you can use the infrastructure as code concept to manage entire deployments using repeatable templates and configurations. ARM templates and BICEP are two examples of using infrastructure as code with the Azure Resource Manager to maintain your environment. ARM templates. By using ARM templates, you can describe the resources you want to use in a declarative JSON format. With an Azure template, the deployment code is verified before any code is run. This ensures that the resources will be created and connected correctly. The template then orchestrates the creation of those resources in parallel. That if you need 50 instances of same resources, all 50 instances are created at the same time. So it will be working concurrently, like all 50 will be upping at the same time, like it's not like one after the other. Ultimately, the developer, DevOps professional or IT professional needs only to define the desired state and configuration of each resource in the ARM template, and the template does the rest. Templates can even execute PowerShell and Bash scripts before or after the resource has been set up. Say you are creating some virtual machine, so for a particular department, so for example for the sales department, so when you create for a sales department, all sales department needs a common application to be installed. So you will have your ARM template created for sales department virtual machine creation. So in that you can also link that to another PowerShell or Bash script that is going to install, or that's going to do some setup in the virtual machine after the virtual machine has been created. So you just run the template. So the template is going to create the virtual machine, do all the connections, and once that's done, at the end we will have a code to run the PowerShell. So that PowerShell will be running, which is going to indeed install the application or do the settings based on the PowerShell script. So everything can be done at one, just running a ARM template. Benefits of using ARM templates. So ARM templates provide you many benefits when planning for Azure deploying Azure resources. Some of the benefits are like declarative syntax. So ARM templates allow you to create and deploy an entire infrastructure declaratively. Declarative syntax means that you declare what you want to deploy, but no need to write the actual programming commands and sequence to deploy the resources. Repeatable results. Repeatedly deploy your infrastructure throughout the deployment lifecycle and have confidence your resources are deployed in a consistent manner. You can use the ARM template to deploy multiple development or test environments, knowing that all the environments are the same. Orchestration. So you don't have to worry about the complexities of ordering operations. Azure Resource Manager orchestrates the deployment of interdependent resources so they are created in the correct order. When possible, ARM deploys resources in parallel so your deployments finish faster than serial deployments. You deploy the template through one command rather than through multiple imperative commands. So this orchestration, in short, we can understand with an example. So usually whoever has worked with the PowerShell commands, we will have we will be using a pipeline to run multiple commands in the single line of PowerShell. So when we do that, we will be running one command after other. So as an example, if you're going to first run get some data from a Excel, the second we are trying to filter out a particular column. Just in case we have put that command wrongly, like we have put the first command as get the detail from the particular column and the second as get the details from the Excel. So it's not going to work. So in this with this orchestration, the ARM Resource Manager, right, it will be able to deploy the interdependent resources, so they are created in correct order. So it will create in the correct order if there is any interdependency, like one resource is dependent on its deployment based on the other resources. Like say example, resource A is dependent on the resource B's creation. So this orchestration will help to create the resource B first, then with that dependency the resource A can be created. So all these things will be helpful, and wherever possible it still will work by creating the resources parallelly, so that you will no need to wait for a longer time for all your resources to be created. Modular files. You can break your templates into smaller reusable components and link them together at deployment time. You can also nest one template inside another template. For example, you could create a template for a VM stack and then nest the template inside the templates of deploy entire environment, and that VM stack will consistently be deployed in each of the environment templates. So that's just we are nesting two templates. So whenever the parent template runs, the nested templates also will be deployed each time. With deployment scripts, you can add PowerShell or Bash scripts to your templates. The deployment script extend your ability to set up resources during deployment. A script can be included in the template or stored in an external source and referenced in the template. Deployment scripts give you the ability to complete your end-to-end environment setup in a single ARM template. Next is BICEP. So BICEP is the language that uses declarative syntax to deploy Azure resources. A BICEP file defines the infrastructure and configuration. Then ARM deploys that environment based on the BICEP file. While like an ARM template which is written in JSON, BICEP files tend to use a simpler, more concise style. So benefits of BICEPs are support for all resource types and API versions. So BICEP immediately supports all preview and GA versions of Azure services. As soon as a resource provider introduces new resource type and API versions, you can use them in your BICEP file. You don't have to wait for the tools to be updated before using the new services. Simple syntax. When compared to the equivalent JSON template, BICEP files are more concise and easier to read. BICEP requires no previous knowledge of programming languages. BICEP syntax is a declarative and specifies which resources and which properties you want to deploy. Repeatable results. Repeatedly deploy your infrastructure throughout the deployment lifecycle and have confidence your resources are deployed in the consistent manner. BICEP files are idempotent, which means you can deploy the same file many times and get same resource types in the same state. You can develop one file and represent the desired state rather than developing lots of separate files to represent updates. Again, the orchestration, the same what we have seen in the Azure Resource Manager. Then modularity, you can break the BICEP code into manageable parts by using modules. The modules deploys a set of related resources. Module enable you to reuse code and simplify development. Add the module to a BICEP file anytime you need to deploy those resources. So these are the benefits of BICEP.